Hi and welcome to this PowerShell tutorial video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at how to create a menu for any of your console style applications in PowerShell. So this is going to be in the console or terminal, not a GUI or graphic user interface style menu. So this is pretty much the intended way of PowerShell being used is in the PowerShell console, you'll be able to give this to your users, your help desk, or just make something for yourself to be able to automate different tasks. And you can provide them a list of different options of what to do. And then they can select that option, and then they will also be given an option to quit, and then that will automatically quit out of the application. So let's actually go ahead and let's get started on making that here. So the first thing that we really have to do is just kind of define and show our user that, they've booted up the application and we are kind of greeting them. So the way that I like to do that in these scenarios is I like to do a write host. So oftentimes you'll see me do write output a lot. But if you wanted to do some interaction with a user, of course, if you want a user input, you're going to have to use read host. But what you're really going to want to do is write host if you really want to show interactivity. I just like that because you can set the foreground color. You can make it a little bit more colorful for the users. It becomes a little bit easier on the eyes, just a little bit easier to focus on what exactly is going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a write host, and we're just going to say welcome to the JackedProgrammer console menu tutorial. And then what we're going to do is we're going to specify a foreground color. And what I like to do is specify the foreground color of green. This way people know that it's good. We'll also have some red for invalid inputs. But what I like to do is I like to keep the menu mostly green for anything that we're showing to the user or anything like that. It just signifies usually good and it stands out. It really pops out to the user, especially if you are using the default color of PowerShell, which is blue. It still stands out really, really nicely. Or if they're using it in dark mode, it also stands out really, really nicely as well. So, and then once we do that, I like to do is I like to start off our loop, which, like I said, this is going to be a menu. So the person's going to be able to select as many options as many times as they really want until they really want to quit out of the application. So what I like to do is I like to do a do and then open and close curly brackets while, and then we're going to have our condition here. Now what we can do is we can definitely say user choice as a variable here, not in, and we can then put not in, and then we can put an array here for sure. But what I like to actually do, because we're going to have to reference this array potentially other times, is I like to define that right at the top here. So we're going to have quit options, and we're going to define that here as capital Q, and these aren't going to be case sensitive, so you can definitely put lowercase or uppercase here. We're going to put the word quit, and then we're going to put the word exit here. Not exist, exit. Perfect. And then what I like to do is I like to just say not in quit options here. All right, perfect. And then the other main thing that we really have to do once we have this is, of course, give the ability for the user to enter an option. Now, I know we haven't presented any menu options or anything like that. This is just the standard way that I kind of like to just build out my applications, get that basic functionality and then start adding features one at a time. That's usually how I do a lot of my work. So what we're going to do is we're going to define our user choice variable here, and we're going to set that to a read host, and we're going to set that to a prompt of please enter your choice, and then we're going to do a colon and then a little space at the end just so it looks a little bit nicer for the user there. Just gonna save that, and we can actually run this right now, and it will actually work. Just so you guys can actually see that functionality here. So let's actually go ahead and run this. And as you can see, we get our little pop-up here that's, or not pop-up, but we get our little message here that says, welcome to the JackedProgrammer console menu tutorial. Please enter your choice. And if I enter in test here, we just get, please enter your choice. I can enter in 1, 2, 3. It just keeps prompting for my choice. And if I enter a lowercase q, it goes ahead and it actually exits out of the application. Now it's not a nice exit, it just really kind of cold exits. We don't get a message or anything like that. So let's go ahead and let's put something in place for that and maybe kind of guide a little bit more the users on what they can actually do. So let's do on just guiding the user first. That's probably going to be our most handy feature, because if our users don't know what they need to do to exit, they really can't exit anyways. So let's go do a write host, and we're going to say please enter the corresponding line number to select the item. And then we can also say you can also enter. Now, what we can actually do here is we can do something a little cool. So you can actually use this variable here as well. So you can also enter, and we're going to do a variable wrapper, and we're going to do quit options space dash join. And then we're going to do a set of double quotes here, and we're going to do a comma. And then that's going to be, you can also enter, and that's going to list off all of our quit options to quit the application. So now if we actually just go ahead and we just run this now, we will see that we get, please enter the corresponding line number to select the item. You can also enter Q quit exit to quit the application. So now we know to quit the application, we can just hit Q. What's really nice about doing it this way, when you have it in a variable here and also in your loop, is let's say you wanted to add an item. Let's say a user gives you feedback that they want to add an exit option. Maybe they want to add the letter E for exit. You can then go ahead and add that into your array, hit launch, and now it automatically adds it into your menu option. It will tell them, hey, you can actually enter this and it will work. So now if we actually test and we do E, it will also exit our application. So that's why I like to do it as a variable on the top. It just gives you a lot more flexibility for that. So now what we're going to really want to do is kind of give that little smooth exit. So when someone exits, it doesn't just like cold cut the application. We're going to display a little message like, thank you for using our application. So the way that we're going to do that, and the way that really our main menu is actually going to work, is going to be using a switch statement. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a switch. And what I'm going to do right away is I'm going to add the regex or regular expression parameter here. Now I'm going to show you guys why I'm doing this by removing it in just a little bit to show you guys what doesn't work if we don't have that regular expression. Now there are ways that you could do this without the regular expression, but once again, with our variable quit options, using the regular expressions makes it a whole lot easier. So let's go ahead and let's make our switch based on our user choice, and we're going to have our open and closing curly bracket. Now, what I always like to do is I like to put in default right off the bat. This is going to be the case for any cases that aren't listed. So we're actually going to put that right away as write dash host. And we're going to make that invalid input. And we're going to make that the foreground color of red. Oh, and we also just want to make that foreground application here for our menu as green. So once we actually have that here, we're going to have to add another case just so we can actually show you guys the quit application here. So our first case that we want to have is actually going to be the quit options space dash join space double quote, and then we're going to add the pipe symbol inside of the double quotes, and then we're going to add our open and closing curly brackets here. And all we're going to do is do a write host thank you for using our application. And once again, we're just going to put the foreground color as green. You can definitely put this a different color if you would like your quit option to be a slightly different color. But let's go ahead and let's save that. Let's go run our application and see exactly what's going on. So here we can see our welcome. We can see that we get the please enter the corresponding line number to select the item. You can also enter Q, quit, exit, E to quit the application. Let's go ahead and let's just enter test here. So test, we get something wrong here because we just get thank you for using our application. And that is because I probably made a little mistake here. Thank you for using our application. Didn't quit out, so let me just do one. All right, so there it is. So we have 1 for invalid input there. We also have 2 for invalid input. If we do T, we have invalid input as well. If I do test, now you will see potentially some issues here with test, as we can tell, gets an option here. So let's go ahead and let's just see what's going on there. You might have to add some other options. So the regex will find it probably because of the E here. So you might have to be a little careful with what your quit options are. You will have to kind of debug that potentially, or add some more cases around it. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I will just go ahead and remove the E for now. And we are going to go ahead and just save. All right, perfect. And now what we can go ahead and do is we can go add our more options here. So what we can do is we're going to add some write hosts here for some more options. All right, so we are going to do the option number 1, which is going to be get the date. So this is going to be a very simple menu. This is more of just to get your guys' idea on how we can make a menu here for your application. All right, so once we actually have that, get the date, and we're going to make sure that our foreground color is always green. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste this one write host here, and we're going to paste that in 2 times. So we're going to do 2 and 3, and we're going to say get the computer name, and then get our last one is going to be a lookup service status. So of course you can do these as anything. Let's say you were making this for your help desk department or anything like that. You can make this as a Active Directory lookup, password reset tool, anything like that. So it is very, very awesome in that regards. All right, so let's go ahead and at this point now, we are going to go ahead and put our first option, which is going to be 1. And let's go ahead and let's open and close the curly brackets here. So 1 for us was just get the date. So all we're going to do is we're going to create a date variable. We're going to make that equal to get date. And we are simply going to do a write host and the current date is, and we can put that date. And once again, we put the foreground color as green. And all I'm going to do is we're going to copy paste that whole section there of number 1, change that number to 2, change the date variable to computer name, and change get date to get. We can do get computer info and get the computer name that way. We can also do just the n computer name here. Maybe you'd want to do computer info if you were also providing more information on the computer as well. So now we can say your computer name is, and then it provides them the computer name. And then we can have the last option here, which is going to be our service lookup. So this one's going to be technically our most complicated one, but still not super complicated here. We're going to do our service lookup variable. We're going to make that equal to read host. Please enter a service name. Now this is not going to be a super in-depth application. Again, this is just to kind of show how to create a basic menu. Now, of course, you would want to really test these out and kind of add a lot of error detection and just a little bit more stability around your app, your different features like the 1, 2, and 3. Like for me, for 3, you would probably add a different ability to detect if the service name that they typed even exists, and then give options to say this service name doesn't exist, and a bunch of other things. All I'm doing is going to grab a service name. I'm then going to grab the get service commandlet. Make sure my error action is going to be silently continue in case anything happens. And then we're going to pipe that to where display name is like double quotes, and then we're going to do star star, and then we're going to do service lookup. All right, so now if we go ahead and we save this here, we go ahead and run our application. If we do 1, we get the current date. If we do 2, we get our computer name. If we get 3, it's going to ask us for our service name. So if I type in spooler, it's going to go ahead and get me that print spooler service. And then if I want to go ahead and exit, I could type quit. And then it's going to say thank you for using our application. And then it's just going to quit out of that application. So one of the other things that you can easily do as well, like I said, so as we noticed when we had the E there, we had some different issues. As you're going to see, we can even get that issue if we possibly type in, let's say we type in QWERTY. We're going to see that we get the thank you for using our application, because technically the regex match does match our option of Q. Now you can do this maybe a little bit better here. If we did, instead of invalid input here, sorry, not in here. So here we can actually add some error detection. If it accidentally goes into our quit options, we can just have a if user choice in our quit options. And let me just fix our uppercases here so we can better easily read that. We can have our open curly bracket here, closing curly bracket here, and then we can have else, and then we can just actually do a write host invalid input, and that would actually fix that problem. So let me just quit that here, and let's launch. So now if we do QWERTY now, we are going to see that we get our invalid input. So there might be some little twinkering like that you might have to do depending on what your choices are to quit and your different menu options. You're always going to want to fully test, but that is a way that you can easily add that in there. And now we would be able to easily add our, let me just put Q here so it quits out of our application. And if I added the letter E back in and we launched that, and now if we put the word test, like we were getting our issues earlier, you're going to notice that now we get the invalid input instead of saying thank you for using our application. So there's just those little things to do. And like I said, I would show you guys what would happen if we don't do the regex here. So if we remove the regex here altogether, what we will actually have here, if we launch this and we put Q, we get invalid input, and then obviously it would just quit out. So the reason why we get invalid input is by default, the switch case cannot actually understand this condition. So it will actually go right into default because all it sees is a bunch of different options here. So you could potentially try this as well. And we will see here, if I do Q, we still get invalid input, and it still quits, but we do get that invalid input. So that is something to pay attention to. So let me just back out of here. Regex will be your friend in these menu type of situations. Now you could definitely make multiple more cases for the switch. You can make a case for each of these quit options and have it quit as well. That is definitely an option. I believe even, I don't know if that will work, but I don't think that it does. In the past, yeah, it still says invalid input. I just wasn't sure. I remember in the past that didn't work. So you're definitely going to want to use that regex option here. If you want to use a array to define your quit options or maybe other different menu options. But that is really how you can make a console menu in PowerShell quite easily. It usually takes, depending on how much detection you have for error detection, usually you can keep these menus pretty short. And this one has 3 functions and we're still only at 33 lines. But what's really good is if you create APIs using the PowerShell Universal, your code will still be really short. As example, if you wanted to do a Active Directory password reset, you could really simply ask the user what domain and what is the username, and then it can go ahead and call an API that you wrote in PowerShell Universal and then give back the password to the help desk agent, and then they would be able to give that to the user. There's a variety of different options you can do. Really, the options are limitless. If you liked this video or you would like to see anything else, please comment down below and be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also be sure to hit that notification bell to be alerted when that next video comes out, and I will see you guys on the next video.